This video was brought to you by Nebula. On Sunday, French Interior Minister Gérald Darmanin announced that the government would be introducing a constitutional reform to end the practice of birthright citizenship for the French overseas region of Mayotte. This comes after months of unrest on the archipelago, which many Mayotte citizens blame on accelerating migration flows from the neighbouring Comoros, which has in turn created an anxiety on the French right that Mayotte birth citizenship rules are being abused. So in this video, we're going to take a look at the ongoing crisis in Mayotte, the proposed reforms, and why they've proved so controversial in France. Before we start, if you haven't already, please consider subscribing and ringing the bell to stay in the loop and be notified when we release new videos. So to understand this story, you need to know a bit about both Mayotte and France's birthright citizenship rules. Let's start with Mayotte. Now, we should say that we actually did a full video on Mayotte and its current crisis over on the TLDR Global channel a couple of months ago, so go and watch that if you want to know more. But the TLDR is that Mayotte is an island archipelago that lies off the coast of southeastern Africa, roughly 5,000 miles away from what's sometimes called metropolitan France, i.e. mainland France. Now, despite this distance, Mayotte decided to remain with France after Comoros, the archipelago just west of Mayotte, declared its independence via a referendum in 1974. Now, at the time, Mayotte wasn't fully integrated with France and was allowed to have its own regional laws to protect local traditions such as polygamy and Islamic courts, as Mayotte is majority Muslim. However, during the 2007 presidential election campaign, would-be President Nicolas Sarkozy proposed a referendum on full integration, which was duly held in 2009. An overwhelming 95% majority of Mayotte citizens voted in favour of full integration. So, in 2011, Mayotte became an overseas department of France, before becoming fully integrated into the EU as one of its so-called special territories in 2014. Today, France has 5 overseas departments: French Guiana, Guadeloupe, Martinique, Réunion, and Mayotte, with each overseas department being the sole department in its own overseas region, which means that each territory gets to elect regional councils with powers similar to that of the 13 regions of metropolitan France. Now, Mayotte has always been significantly poorer than metropolitan France. 75% of the population live below France's relative poverty rate, and the very high fertility rate of about 5 children per woman has put immense strain on Mayotte's public services. Unfortunately, things are especially bad right now because the territory is experiencing its worst drought since 1997. Residents have had minimal or no access to drinking water since September, and its hillside reservoirs are at capacities of 7% and 6% respectively, according to a report from the Mayotte state government a couple of months ago. However, even though Mayotte is poorer than metropolitan France, political union with France has nonetheless made it wealthier than its neighbours. For context, Mayotte today has a GDP per capita of about $3,000, roughly double that of Comoros. And this has encouraged migration from Comoros into Mayotte, helping Mayotte's population to grow from 67,000 in 1985 to an official figure of about 300,000 today, although unofficial estimates suggest that the true figure is actually much higher. Additionally, many young people who were born in Mayotte then leave for metropolitan France, which means that something like half of Mayotte's population don't actually have French nationality. One of the other reasons that these migrants from Comoros are so keen to get into Mayotte is because of France's birthright citizenship policy. For context, even if neither parent is French, a child born on French soil may become a naturalized French citizen from age 13, subject to residence conditions, and automatically upon turning 18, providing that they reside in France on their 18th birthday and have had their primary residence in France for a total period of at least 5 years since the age of 11. This means that, even if they're not French, migrants into Mayotte who have a baby there know that their kid has a good chance of becoming a French citizen. This practice of birthright citizenship, albeit restricted in the French case, is known as jus soli, which translates to right of the soil. Jus soli stands in contrast to jus sanguinis, which translates to right of blood, where nationality is determined not by where you're born, but by the nationality of one or both of your parents. Today, most countries use a combination of jus soli and jus sanguinis, but because jus soli has its origins in English common law, while jus sanguinis has its origins in Roman law, jus soli policies are generally more prevalent in the Anglosphere, including countries like Australia, Canada, and the US, while jus sanguinis policies are more prevalent in Europe, but the French policy leans more towards jus soli than other European countries. Anyway, this apparently all changed on Sunday when Interior Minister Gerald Darmanin announced that in Mayotte, it will no longer be possible to become French if you're not the child of a French parent. Now, this new rule would be considered a constitutional reform and would therefore require either a referendum or a parliamentary supermajority of 60% of MPs. In justifying what he admitted was a radical decision, Darmanin added that the measure would reduce the attractiveness of the archipelago for prospective immigrants. This measure was also aimed to placate both the French right, who feel that French citizenship laws are being abused in some sense, and local Mayotte citizens, who generally blame the current crisis on high levels of immigration. This is partly why, during the French presidential election in 2022, Marine Le Pen registered her highest first-round score in Mayotte, and Mayotte citizens were overwhelmingly supportive of Operation Takeback, an anti-immigration security policy for Mayotte introduced by the French government in April 2023. It's also similar, in a sense, to the deal signed by the EU, Spain, and Mauritania last week to reduce immigration from Mauritania to the Canary Islands, which are, like Mayotte, one of the EU's special territories outside of mainland Europe, and a symptom of the growing anxieties about migration across the EU. Anyway, this policy has caused quite a storm in France. On the right, both Marine Le Pen's National Rally and the Republicans, who are now being led by the more right-wing Éric Ciotti, said that while they welcomed the measure, they thought that the measure should be extended throughout all of France, not just Mayotte. While on the left, the Socialists, Greens, and France Unbowed all said that they opposed the measure, with the leader of France Unbowed describing it as an attack on the very concept of nationality, the foundation of the Republic. What both the left and right apparently agree on, however, is that the application of the new law to only Mayotte creates an uncomfortable divide between the rest of France and Mayotte, even though it's meant to be treated exactly the same as any other French region. As a TLDR viewer, I can pretty confidently say that you're curious about the world around you, keen to know what's really going on, rather than just the general media narrative. And one country where this is particularly interesting is China, where a lot of media coverage can be muddled or misleading. If you want to dive deeper though, I'd recommend Polymatter's incredible series, China Actually, which explores the truth behind the Chinese news, examining the truth about China's one-child policy, why China has no allies, how Chinese censorship really works, and what exactly China's nuclear policy looks like. All in all, it's a brilliantly researched and thoughtful series, and it's exclusively available on our streaming service, Nebula. As you know, Nebula is the service that we built with a whole bunch of our creator friends, and is home to tons of smart, educational content from all of your favorite creators. The best part is that by signing up, you not only get exclusive series like China Actually, Modern Conflicts from Real Life Law, or The Logistics of X from Wendover Productions. It also includes all of our content totally ad-free and sometimes before it arrives on YouTube. Plus, signing up directly supports TLDR, because by doing so, you contribute to the budgets of these big budget documentaries and help us to grow and expand our ambitions. So if you want to get more superb content and support TLDR, then if you sign up using the link below, you can support us directly and get Nebula for 40% off an annual plan. That's about £2 a month. Thanks for your support and for backing Nebula.